part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Well, one thing the Hawks will do is beat the Pels. We'll give you our takes on an impressive start to a 117-100 win tonight, and we'll tell you why that was the turning point. So let's get right into it. DeShaun, you said the unusual suspects won the game tonight.
Specifically, the unusual. I've been waiting, I don't know how long, to see Zaccharie Risacher put together a strand of just, back-to-back games only, even if it's just those two games. Sometimes this season, it's like, can I just get two back-to-back quarters even? For the guy who's been the #1 pick and that we've invested so much into for our future. It was good to be able to see him do it tonight, but it wasn't just him. After, I think, the past 5 games, Mohamed Gueye, now granted, put an asterisk on it just a little bit, Mohamed Gueye definitely hasn't played nearly as many minutes as he typically would over the course of the last 5 games the way he did on tonight, but scoreless over the course of the last 5 games. Big time numbers of what you got from him on tonight. Of course, 10 rebounds is big time numbers for him, but just the way he impacts every game with things that don't always show up on the stat sheet with his energy, I feel like he kind of got back to that again. Luke Kennard, 6 consecutive double-digit scoring games for him. I don't really know what's gotten into him or what they're eating for breakfast, but I just challenge him to keep on doing it. It's just been those guys. I mean, even in some instances where you have Vit Krejci, which I think the team has been relying on quite a bit this year, especially with his perimeter shooting. He hasn't been nearly as consistent the last couple games. So, like the old saying goes, next man up. They've definitely been doing that. And even I want to give a shout out to Dyson Daniels, where every single month, it may not be by a lot, but every single month, his scoring is continuously going up from 7 points a game in October or whatever it was, and then 2 more points every month, 2 more points. I think now he's up to somewhere close to 15. So just kind of getting back to the old Dyson Daniels that we were kind of used to seeing. I'm proud of this team, especially in the front court without Onyeka also.
I like the front court, and you're right, Onyeka Okongwu not in the lineup tonight due to illness, but certainly the front court more than made up for that in their performance tonight, whether it was, as you mentioned, Zaccharie Risacher in the starting lineup going 25 points on 8 of 13 from the field, but 7 of 9 specifically from 3, and almost getting a double-double with 8 rebounds, and then seeing Kristaps Porzingis in 22 minutes off the bench, 13 points on 4 of 11 shooting, but more importantly, 4 of 8 from 3. And going back to Zaccharie Risacher as well, we saw that, although I think it was the last game where he kind of came alive in that third quarter, but unfortunately it was all for naught because he fouled out. So getting in foul trouble, and that was something that was troubling for us, and just 2 fouls tonight. So you kind of saw him clean up the boards and get back on defense a little bit better than he had in recent memory. And that's good to see. And for me, my take was that the wings went off like they should have, with 2 starting wings out for the New Orleans Pelicans, among other players, but particularly Herb Jones and Trey Murphy from the starting lineup, along with, like I said, several other players. They had 5 players out tonight. That's when you should eat. That's when you should cook. But at the beginning of the game, my question to myself was, would Jalen Johnson and the Hawks wings be able to take advantage? And going back to Zach, 9 points in that first quarter. He went 3 for 3 from deep. Perfect. And Jalen did too. 10 points on 5 of 6 shooting from the field. And I think that this is one of those games where, yes, you expected the Hawks to win. They've beaten the Pels in their other game this season. But on the same token, it's good to see the Hawks actually win a game that they're supposed to win and take advantage of mismatches when they're there. And I felt like that was exactly what we got out of Zaccharie Risacher. Even Jalen Johnson didn't quite get to his double-double, but he was right there with 19 points and 8 rebounds, 5 assists on the night, just one personal foul. And if I can just say this, I was also looking to see like what would happen in terms of how the Pelicans would defend Jalen Johnson, and they kind of didn't. But I think that I was also looking to see what kind of defense Quinn Snyder would kind of put out there and kind of who would be on who. And if I can just go back to what you said and kind of co-sign on Dyson Daniels, right? Because I wondered who Quinn Snyder was going to put on Derik Queen, because that was really my focal point. Not even Zion Williamson, to be honest. I wanted to see where was this team going to go with their defending of Derik Queen in the absence of Onyeka Okongwu. But Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench, Mo Gueye playing more minutes than Asa Newell. So what will we get? But actually, Dyson Daniels did a nice job on Derik Queen earlier in the game. And so for him to end the game, for him, his assignment to essentially be to defend, quote unquote, the best player on the other team, the best player on the floor from the other team, hold Derik Queen to 6 points, or help to hold him to 6 points on 3 of 9 shooting. I thought he did a fine job in the beginning when that was his assignment.
Well, I thought that was big because I'm pretty sure, as you probably already know, that Derik Queen had this game probably, I'm just assuming, highlighted and circled on his calendar because of the trade on draft night. So that is its own thing. And he's been playing really, really well for an NBA rookie so far this year. And he wasn't the only one that had ties to New Orleans. Obviously, I know DeJounte Murray didn't play, but obviously there's that conversation. Just want to make sure that was given a mention of all nights, especially on nights like tonight. And then even more so, Dyson Daniels, who was the number 8 pick in the 2022 draft, coming over from there. So, I know that, I think it's good for the past, what is it now? I think the Atlanta Hawks has been 10-3 against New Orleans since the 18-19 season, now being 11-3 against them. That is the best record that the Atlanta Hawks in that span has had against any team. And I thought it was just really important while, to try to contain Queen the best that you can and just really utilize your advantage that you have from an experience standpoint over him. Try to contain the duo the best that you can between inside and outside of Zion Williamson, which I think they did a fantastic job in the first quarter. We'll talk about that more later. But also, force him to be a shooter, but also Jordan Poole as well, who can tend to become a little bit erratic, and it seems kind of easy to frustrate him when you kind of force him to take some ill-advised, poor shot selections that he typically does. So I think they stuck to the game plan on that. They realized that, and they exposed it.
Indeed, they did. And yeah, I think that this is one of those teams where you see the opposite, because you and I talk about all the time. We talk all the time about how those pesky Chicago Bulls, those pesky Charlotte Hornets, the pesky Washington Wizards, no matter what their records are and who takes the court for any of those teams, they just give the Hawks fits. And it's nice to see the Hawks on the other side of that equation finally being able to say, hey, there's a team that the Hawks kind of have their number, no matter who takes the court, or in this case, I guess, who didn't take the court, because they also didn't have Jose Alvarado, whom we know gives them a lot of quality minutes. Georgia Tech fame. So yeah. So I really say, okay, finally the Hawks are on the other side of that equation where they actually can talk about being a team that has somebody's number. Speaking of which, having their number is what we saw from the first quarter, really from the tip-off with these Atlanta Hawks against the New Orleans Pelicans. And we'll talk about that turning point when we come back. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. So each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack, first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This episode of our show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, and who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. You might be shocked at this, but Rocket Money can show you all that you're paying for as far as some of those pesky subscriptions that you completely forget about. It's already saved money for me, can do the same for you. And Rocket Money tracks all your subscriptions and lets you cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. DeShaun, there were so many things to like about this game from the tip-off, and I feel like this was one of the games where from the opening tip of the first quarter, the Hawks set the tone at both ends, and that's why that was the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
And of course, we appreciate you guys for making the Hawks Postcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Listen, when we think about how the Hawks sometimes have started, even the most recent game a couple nights ago started off on a 12-4 run. The night before that, it was a 15-4 run. That wasn't the case tonight. The Hawks really did set the tone very early, and then that was a momentum that they were able to capture. So, of course, they scored the first points of the game. Then they went on a 14-6 run to start the game. And I really feel like that run set the tone.
Speaking of that run and scoring the first points of the game, that was none other than Mohamed Gueye, the guy that, we've been kind of really looking forward to seeing, kind of get back to being who he was. I feel like there was a significant drop off. And again, I always have to preface it by saying it ain't always going to show on the box score, especially from a scoring perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But just in the other areas that we tend to see him be successful and consistent and persistent in, we hadn't been seeing that as much. And he started it out with an alley-oop in the, striking blood first in this game. So I thought that was definitely good for him. And then also, if this team wants to be successful, if not at any other point, then right now, it's going to have to be that when you don't have a star player or one of your more dominant contributors on your team that's in the game, similar to how it was when Jalen Johnson went out last year, you got to be able to have that other guy that you groomed to be able to step up in these moments very early in his career, which is Zaccharie Risacher. In that first quarter, the first 6 minutes, in fact, he hit 3 threes. I think that was big for him, big for his confidence to get the crowd involved. And also you can see that it had probably been wearing on him a little bit just based off of how big of a deal that it was for him to come out that hot to his teammates that really kind of embraced him as well. And so, they also forced 7 turnovers in that first quarter, which I think was big for this team and helped them kind of get off to a hot start. So some of the offense, like you mentioned, from some of the key contributors that they needed it from, like Zaccharie Risacher, the turnovers on the defensive end, that's your peanut butter, that's your jelly. Put them together, you make a fantastic sandwich.
I don't know whether to laugh or shake my head on that one.
Did you like it? Did you like it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It shows whose stomach is growling right about now.
Yeah, that's why I'm not sure what to do with that comment, but I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to chuckle and say, hey, I'd rather us be talking about peanut butter jelly sandwiches and Dubs than anything else. That momentum that you talked about, that setting the stage, and some of those players whom we hadn't really seen have good games or get off to good starts, I really do think that made a difference. Risacher, one of them. Mohamed Gueye, another one. I think that kind of them finding their rhythm in the beginning was so important, because then you saw, even when the Pels tried to go on a little run of their own towards the end of the first quarter, the Hawks were able to reset and go on another run that ended 17-7 a little bit earlier in that second quarter. And I think most importantly as well, they were able to get the players who could have made a difference. And we don't take anything away from the fact that Zion WIlliamson ended the game with 22 points, but there was a point where the Hawks really did have him in check. They kept Derik Queen in check the entirety of the game. And I think that's something to be said. And just kind of going through the box score and some of the things that were encouraging tonight. Now, we know that the Pels are not one of the better teams on the perimeter. So to see them in the night under 29% shooting from three, not a big deal. But to see the Hawks get to 38% is a big deal, because they really, I felt like they stroked the ball very well, especially their bigs, by the way. That to me was very, very impressive on a night where Nickeil Alexander-Walker didn't have his three-point ball dropping, only 2 of 12 from three tonight. So I think that was important. And then especially from the perspective of the fact that both of the teams didn't do so well, literally both about 64-65% from the free throw line, and both shooting right around 44-46% from the field. So where was the differentiator? The differentiator was in the fact that the Hawks as a collective were able to shoot the three ball well tonight.
Well, I agree with that, Tenitra. And I think that the other thing is, when you factor in what Atlanta did from three being 38%, while that may not necessarily always be something to go write home to mom about, you were able to hold this Pelicans team to 29% from three. And while you were still down without one of your best bigs, being one of your best and only bigs right now, being Onyeka Okongwu, and you do have a guy that's 7'3", Kristaps Porzingis is not necessarily known for his interior defense or interior scoring or, rim protector, anything like that. To grab as many rebounds as they were able to be able to, score the amount of points in the paint that they were able to. Doing some of those things, I think, were very key, because they were just very important, en route for this win. And of course, it's always a big deal. Think about it. This team hasn't won at home at State Farm Arena. We always talk about the road wins. They hadn't won at home in back-to-back games since around Thanksgiving. I mean, we're talking easily about a month and a half, probably going on 2 months now at this point. So I thought that was, a really good sign for this Atlanta Hawks team, where things are clearly a little bit all over the place. They needed to put an exclamation point on this win on tonight and do what you're supposed. The first thing is doing what you're supposed to do. I feel like on the surface level, before you even start getting into the details and the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes of everything, can you do what you're supposed to do against the teams you're supposed to do it against? They checked that box on tonight, and if not nothing else, that's impressive enough within itself.
Yeah, the only knock on them that I had, other than, of course, that pesky free throw line, was just that frustration in the first half of them just missing point blank shots, missing the bunnies. Like, when you're 7'3", 6'11", I really don't need you to be under the basket missing those shots. And the Hawks missed on 6 of 12. And again, this was a night where certainly, because that three ball was flowing, it didn't feel as bad as it could have been. But that's just something that for me is still kind of a fundamental, because that just tells me, hey, you need to pay attention to finishing at the rim, and you didn't. So again, a win is a win. A 117-100 win and sweep of the New Orleans Pelicans for the season series is a beautiful thing. But ultimately, fundamental basketball is important, and being able to get to the rim and finish at the rim, also important.
Very.
Just saying. So listen, we appreciate you guys as always for joining us. This, of course, is our Hawks Postcast. That's the number one place for you to hang out after every game. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, of course, remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, including the reports and the reaction about the trade of four-time NBA All-Star Trae Young to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, head on over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We know that you guys dropped a lot of great comments in the comment section about how you feel about it. But if you want to have more conversation, whether you are in favor of the reported trade of Trae Young to the Washington Wizards, or whether you are disappointed and devastated and wondering how this team can go on without 11, take it all over to our guy, Brad Rowlands, who's waiting with reaction at Locked On Hawks. See you next time.